Are you a constitution?
Centerpiece, the show dedicated to fighting on the front lines of political hypocrisy, exposing the lies and false promises of our leadership. And now your host, the voice of reason, Nick Messer.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Centerpiece. I am Nick, the voice of reason, Messer, coming at you live from a lovely Rensselaer, Indiana, this evening. Today was a big day in the state of Indiana and across the nation. Today was 5/15. This was the start date of the Freedom515 movement. Freedom515.com is the website, so you could read more information into that and everything. It is a transpartisan movement that encompasses all Americans, regardless of what your skin tone is and what your political affiliation is. The basic premise of Freedom 515 is that our government has become self-serving and we are withdrawing our consent to be governed. The United States Constitution stipulates that the government only holds authority under the consent of those that are being governed. And if we withdraw our consent, the government no longer holds authority and we can establish a new one in their stead. So there's no need for an insurrection. It can be 100% completely and totally peaceful. It does not at all whatsoever have to be violent in order to achieve this. So we are avoiding violence at all costs. So today we met. My day started very early this morning. I was up at 6:30 this morning, got up, got dressed, got breakfast, met up, convoyed down to Indianapolis from Rensselaer, which is about an hour and a half trip. We got down there and there was roughly 50 cars. And we did a parade around the 465 bypass there in Indianapolis. A lot of people told us we were number one. I think it had less to do with the movement and more to do with the fact that we were holding up traffic pretty bad. But, if other movements can get out there and block highways and stop people from being able to freely travel, we can at least slow them down a little bit. Everybody still got to where they were going. So we ended up meeting at the airport. We had some interesting vehicles in the mix. The Twisted Tea truck. We had a Twisted Tea pickup truck there in the rally. Had a couple of Twisted Tea cans hanging off of the hitch in the back. So that was kind of interesting. It was a pretty cool truck, nice stereo in it and everything. So flags as far as the eye could see behind us. And they were all kinds of flags. Yes, there were some Trump flags there. There were some Trump flags. There were some Second Amendment flags. There were some thin blue line flags. There were some thin green line flags. There were some thin red line flags. Like, all of the movements, save, well, to be quite honest with you, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, because they don't want to throw in with us. Because they would rather still continue to play the victim. But that can be a discussion for another time. But if they have a founding belief like Freedom 515 has, is that our government has become self-serving, then they're more than welcome. Yeah, it was an all-inclusive rally. Not everybody who was at that rally was a Trump supporter. And I mean, that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight. I went live during the rally, and had a lot of support from people and a very good discussion, and people got informed and they found the website and got information, and that was awesome. But at the beginning, before we launched off on our parade, we were lining up and we were getting ready to take off, and I did a real short, like 15-second video here on TikTok about, our rally was getting started and so on and so forth. And you can check my bio. You can see the video. You can go look at the comments. I haven't deleted any of the comments either. They're all still there. And there have been some really, really shitty comments from some really, really, really stupid people. They have not at all. It looks like Saleh might have on TikTok here has taken off to go check some of them out. But some really ignorant people. I mean, just being absolutely stupid. They took a quick look at the video. It come across their For You page there on TikTok, and they looked at it, and they seen Second Amendment flags, and they seen American flags on the backs of pickup trucks, and they immediately thought it was just a bunch of Trump tards. They wanted to constantly they just wanted to constantly talk about how Trump's out of office, we kicked him out of office, and blah 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 blah, and he's not coming back, and yada yada, and all this different stuff. And it's like, the frustrating part isn't that they're saying these things, it's that they completely miss the fucking point altogether. I mean, just no, I can't even wrap my brain around the level of stupidity that is coming from these people. They just absolutely do not get it at all. They need to go look at the website, and they need to read about it, and they might find out that, you know what, the movement's ideals and goal it walks lockstep in with theirs, probably. And we could band together and actually make some good out of this country before it goes to hell in a handbasket. There was one comment from somebody, and this is one of the things that I wanted to also approach on here was one specific comment was somebody said you can't be a patriot and still support the tyrannical police departments. Yeah, you can. Because once again, he makes the comment because he's completely missed the point. Educate yourself on how police departments operate. The problem is not the individual department. The problem is not the fact that the police officers are following orders. It's the fact that somebody is out there giving those orders. And who gives those orders? The police chief. And who appoints the police chief? Well, if it's a city, it's the mayor. Think about that one for a second. If you have a problem with how your police department is operating in your city, then that responsibility falls directly on the lap of your mayor. So if police in Chicago are so damn brutal, then Lori Lightfoot needs to be doing something about it. She needs to replace the police chief. It's as simple as that. But see, people don't want to hold Lori Lightfoot accountable. Exactly. They're working under orders. And people often say, well, they can just not follow those orders. And you're right. There's going to be some police officers out there that aren't going to follow orders. But you know, and I know, and a lot of people know that until you change the orders, you're not going to change anything in the police department. Because you're always going to be able to find somebody who will throw that uniform on and do whatever you tell them to. They won't even think about it at all whatsoever. You will always be able to find some sort of yes man or yes woman you don't want me to answer that question. But you'll always be able to find someone who's going to be willing to just do whatever they're told. No matter what. And they don't think about the order. They don't think about the questioning it or what's right or wrong about that particular order. They just do what they're told. And you're all, like I said, you're always going to be able to find somebody that can do that, who's willing to do that. I mean, look at a lot of the followers amongst a lot of these movements, and I'm sure that there are people in my own movement that are just going to shut up and do what they're told, and they're not going to ask questions. That's why it's the leadership's responsibility to ensure they're not sending these people out to do something that is wrong, that's unconstitutional in any way, shape, or form. It's the leadership's responsibility to make sure that those who are willing to just jump and do orders, well, they're essentially following constitutional orders. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not abusing their privileges. They're not abusing their authority. But yet in this country, we continue to want to try to blame the police officers. That's what Back the Blue is all about. We're not saying that Back the Blue doesn't say that there aren't any bad police officers, because there are bad police officers. But bad police officers exist as a result of bad law enforcement management within those departments. And that responsibility lies within city and state governments. So if you are seeing a large number of bad police officers in a particular area, then your state and local governments are directly responsible for that happening. Don't hold the individual officers accountable. All right? We've gotten too complacent with this idea. We talk about how we have this war on drugs in the United States, and we're knocking off low-level drug dealers, but nobody wants to do anything to the cartels. So guess what happens? Everything stays exactly the same way, because every time you pick up a low-level drug dealer off the street, 2 more people show up to take his place. So you're not going to do any good. And that's what Freedom 515 is about. All right? We're holding the individual leadership accountable. You got bad police officers on the department in Chicago, Illinois. Mayor Lightfoot, what are you doing about it? What steps are you taking in your administration to ensure that the police officers in your city are not acting in a manner in which abuses their authority? They're not directly targeting minority communities, because the minority communities are out here saying that that's what they're doing. So why do they believe that? Why do they believe that individual officers are out there targeting minority communities in the city of Chicago? Miss Lightfoot, explain that to me. Because it's your fault that that's happening. Your complacency and your self-serving nature for being mayor of Chicago has what's generated this, because you don't care. You got elected as mayor of Chicago, and you get to live a cushy little life because, you are up on this pedestal preaching from a pulpit built out of self-righteousness, and you think you're untouchable. Well, the American people aren't going to stand for that anymore. I mean, let's be honest. Far left, absolute leftist California is recalling their left-wing governor, because people are starting to wake up. And he's on this mad scramble to try to save face by lifting all of the state mandates and restrictions about COVID-19. And now he's gone so far as he wants to add additional state money to the unemployment benefits in the city, in the state of California, in hopes to buy an election with taxpayer dollars, essentially. But yet, nobody wants to do anything about it. And then the minute you get a group like Freedom 515 that comes out and they're actually trying to do something about it, everybody wants to cut down on them. Call them a bunch of Trump tards. Seriously, go check out the video and read some of them comments. It will blow your ever-loving mind how absolutely hateful these people are. They are so willfully ignorant, and they are so dependent on victimhood. They wouldn't be able to see the truth if it slapped them in the face. When you hold tightly to victimhood as a minority person in this country, then you secede. You have relinquished all of your rights and liberties and have essentially become a slave to the state. That's what's happened. Congratulations. Minority persons in leftist holdouts across the United States, congratulations. Your victimhood has turned you back into a slave. That's what you are. You are just a drone that is going to suckle on the government teat until it's time for your turn to go to the ballot box and cast your vote for the same person that's oppressing you. Because I'm just going to tell you right now. Here, listen. I want you to understand something. If you're listening to this and if you're listening to this show on the podcast, or if you're watching on TikTok and you're looking at this and you're going, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Yeah, I do. Let me break it down for you. In 1940, Lyndon B. Johnson passed an act called the Great Society, which instituted the welfare state in the United States. The Great Society was put in place that would help every minority person in the United States. They would receive cash governmental assistance for every child that they had, provided that there was no man in the household. And you must be a minority. Okay? So your average, what they call white, I'm not a white person, I'm light brown. Okay? Black people are not black, they're dark brown. We are all a different shade of brown. That's what we are. Okay? My skin color does not match my t-shirt right here. Okay? I have white on my t-shirt. That's white. That's black. Neither one of these are skin colors. Okay? Do I look like that? No. I look brown next to that, don't I? It's because I'm light brown. Anyway. Light brown people were not allowed to apply for this governmental assistance. Okay? Only dark brown people were. And medium brown people were. Okay? But they weren't allowed to have a man in the home. They weren't allowed to be married. They had to be single mothers. Okay? So they've disenfranchised people from the thermonuclear family, okay? The mom and dad household, okay? Which we now know doesn't matter what your skin tone is. You're 20 times more likely to be a criminal if you're raised in a single parent household, okay? So they incentivize single parent households in minority communities. That's exactly what they did. I will pay you to not get married. I will pay you to be a baby factory and not get married. Period. That's what they started in the 1940s. Now they had this large influx of children, okay, and these people needed a place to live, okay, so they started building the projects, okay, and along with the projects came inner city schools. Now, another part of the problem was, well, these kids weren't getting a very good education because the way schools get their educational budget is a percentage of your property taxes that you pay each year go to the school district in which your property is in. In most of the states across the United States, and in the state of Illinois, I still believe it's 36 cents out of every dollar that you pay. It's either 34 or 36. Out of every dollar in property tax you pay goes to the school district in which your property is in. And that's why your children have to attend the school district in which you live. Okay? So, how much in property tax do you think the people in the projects were paying? Absolutely nothing. So how much additional educational budget was the inner city schools getting, even though they had all these kids going to them? None. So they're undereducated. And whose fault is that? Oh, yeah, that was the Democrats. Once again. And don't think I'm letting the Republicans off the hook for this either, because they sat along the sidelines and they let it happen. Okay? They traded it for something else. In some sort of compromise back and forth. There is no compromise for the education of our children. Period. I don't care what their skin color is. All right, so now these kids were undereducated, and they weren't able to get into secondary post-secondary school. They weren't allowed to get into. They weren't able to get into college because they weren't prepared for college life because they were undereducated. So once again, the left wing steps up, and they're going to quote unquote help the African American community. So to help the African American community, they start affirmative action, which means somebody could get accepted into a prestigious college simply for the color of their skin because that college needed to meet a quota. That a certain percentage of their students in their college must be, at that time, black. And a certain percentage must be Mexican or Hispanic. And a certain percentage must be Asian. So now you got these kids that were undereducated that grew up in the projects and everything like that, and they're getting accepted into prestigious schools like Harvard. Thomas Sowell talked about this when he was a professor of economics at Harvard. He had young African American men and women in his classroom at Harvard that tested in the 75th percentile on the SATs. Okay? Now, the 75th percentile in the SATs is nothing to shake a stick at. That's actually pretty decent. The fact of the matter stands is that the minimum requirement in order to get accepted into Harvard University without affirmative action is 99th percentile. So now you've got kids that were undereducated, put into a college environment in which they were not prepared for, and what do you think happens? They get saddled with massive student loan debt, and they fail out and end up right back in the projects doing the same thing to their children. And we're 5 generations in now. So, and people wonder why they're behaving the way that they are behaving. They weren't even trying to help, Mina. They were not at all whatsoever concerned with trying to help. It was about control. I am going to do these things for you that will supposedly make your life better if you vote for me. Keep me in power, and I will keep giving you these things, even though they're going to do you absolutely no good, and they're completely worthless to you, and I know it. I'm going to continue to promise you these things in order for you to continue to throw votes at me. And it wasn't just minority communities that were doing it. The quote-unquote majority white communities were also falling in step with that because they wanted to help. They bought into the ideal because they wanted to help. Well, you want to know what? You want to help the minority communities? Get the fuck out of their way and leave them alone. Because they're perfectly capable of doing it on their own. They do not need our superior white voices or our superior white ethic in order to be able to make it happen. Get out of the way. But we're not going to get anybody out of the way until we have a big reset in the government. It's just that simple. They bought in. These people have absolutely 100% bought into the ideal that the Democrat Party, I mean, even Lyndon B. Johnson, even when he signed the bill starting the Great Society, he said, I'll have these N-words voting Democrat for the next 100 years. He didn't care about African American communities. All he wanted was the vote. He wasn't trying to help them. He had no concern for them at all whatsoever. He just wanted them to show up at the polls and start voting. And guess what? That's exactly what they did. And that married them to the government. And now they're essentially captive of they're essentially a captive of the government. They're a slave to the government. They have to continue. They're so dependent upon the government for their basic needs. They have to continue to vote for the system. They have to vote for the cage that they're trapped in because they can't see any other way. It's that simple. And that's where we're out here. We're trying to educate people. I have the information. I've done the research. I've done the studies. This is how self-serving. The government is so self-serving that they will send $10 million. Actually, the total was $15 million. They sent $15 million to Pakistan, $10 million of which was earmarked for gender studies. Okay? To Pakistan for their private little personal special interest group. Okay? They sent $15 million over there, and you got people in Flint, Michigan that still don't have clean drinking water. Almost a decade since they've had clean drinking water. Their drinking water has been messed up in Flint, Michigan since 2012, when Democrats took control over the local government in Flint, Michigan. You know how much it'll cost to fix the situation in Flint, Michigan? Roughly $12 million. So we could have just not sent that $15 million over to Pakistan and told Pakistan, hey, you're going to have to come up with the funds for yourself. We can't afford it right now because we got our own people to take care of. No. We have American citizens over here that don't have clean drinking water in their homes, but, Pakistan gets to have their gender study. There's a lot of things that go on in this country that Freedom515 stands against, and the reason for this rally. And that's what I'm giving you right now. I'm giving you reasons why we had this rally. We're not out here trying to be the white supremacists. We are out here trying to fight for the minority communities and get them a fair fucking shake for once. Because you know what? We left the African-American community alone after the 1920s, up until they burned Black Wall Street. Yeah, that's a historical fact, too. The African-American community used to have their own Wall Street, and they burn it to the fucking ground, okay? But before that, the African-American community was actually recovering from the Great Depression faster than any other ethnic group in the United States. I wonder why. Probably because adversity fosters greatness. When we got the hell out of their way and just let them be and let them do their thing, they did it better than we did. You're absolutely right, Craig. We all bleed red. It doesn't matter what our skin tone looks on the outside. We all look the same on the inside. Our government, like I said, is completely 100% self-serving. They have no concern for the American people at all whatsoever. And every 6 months before an election, they will come out into the public eye, and like I said, they'll stand on their pillar and preach from a pulpit built out of self-righteousness to try to get you to vote for them. Whereas deep down inside, we're blinded by that self-righteousness, by the light of the glare that comes off of it. And if we could if we put on a pair of sunglasses and see past that, we'd see a pile of shit standing there talking to us. And it's been that way for a century. It's been that way because we have caught ourselves in a system in which it is a binary system. It's either this or that. Yes or no. But when it comes down to situations like oppression in minority communities and welfare state and social programs and so on and so forth, there are a lot of nuances that get ignored when you have a binary system. Like, for example, I believe that people do fall on hard times and that it's okay to have a social program that helps those people who fall on hard times. But I also don't believe that it should be a fucking career choice either. See, that's those little nuances in there. That's what puts me in the middle, okay? The Republicans just want to up and rid the country of the welfare state, and that's not really possible. I don't think it needs to be gotten rid of. The leftists, the Democrats, they're on the other side. They just want to fucking give it to everybody. so that you continually vote for Democrats and they just can continue to control everything and be tyrants and turn you into a slave because you live off the government. And I don't think that's okay either. But we don't have any other choice. The two sides work together to ensure we have to pick one of them. The rules are stacked against anyone, and I mean anyone who dares to try to flip that system over on its head. Okay? If a new political party wanted to gain legitimacy in the federal government, they must obtain a certain percentage of the vote from the American people in order to obtain legitimacy in the federal government. Otherwise, you must either be a Republican or a Democrat. We need to wake up because we've been fucking cheated. Every single one of us has been cheated. It is okay to be able to stand up and say, you want to know what? They fooled me. I let them fool me. I will have 1,000% more respect for you if you are willing to admit that they fooled you and now you want to do something about it. I will stand by your side and I will help you fight every step of the way. But if you want to sit there and cling to your own personal biases because you're afraid to admit to yourself that you were duped by our federal government and our state governments, I can't help you because words are all I have. And on that note, we're going to take a little short time out, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Are you a constitutionalist and fan of the Second Amendment? Then you need to listen to the American Gun Show, hosted by me, Jason Reeve, the voice of freedom. We talk about laws, training, and everything in between. Find us on the Firearms Radio Network, iHeartRadio, and every podcast platform. The American Gun Show. Our rights, our fight.
The SAF is the most important gun rights organization in existence. Don't believe me? They are responsible for 80% of gun rights cases making their way through the courts right now, fighting to protect your right to keep and bear arms. Still don't believe me? Then head on over to saf.org, where you can read about the current cases open right now. You can also join the fight or donate to the cause. Protecting your rights, one lawsuit at a time. Visit saf.org today. The Freedom 515 movement is an opportunity for Americans to stand together for our constitutional rights, freedom, and civil liberties. We will no longer accept a government that does not work for the people, and we will not accept a media agenda aimed at dividing this country. The time to take a stand in solidarity with your fellow patriots is now. Join us. This peaceful movement is a transpartisan one. As long as you agree that we need and deserve better from our representatives in our government, you have a home here. Visit www.freedom515.com to sign up for email notifications or to join. That website is freedom515.com.
Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. An estimated 24.9 million victims all over the world in the U.S., including children, are trafficked each year for sex, manual labor, and more. Human trafficking earns profits of roughly $150 billion a year. Operation Underground Railroad is a non-profit organization dedicated to putting an end to human trafficking. Visit www.ourrescue.org to find out more and select Join the Fight from the menu to see how you can help end human trafficking.
All right, folks, thanks for sticking around with us. What? Well, yeah, well, I was talking, I apologize to those that are listening on TikTok. I was yelling because I have my headphones on still, and it's really hard to hear myself through my headphones when the ads are playing through my headphones, so it gets me, I kind of get loud. So I attribute that to my days while I was in the military. I worked around aircraft all day, every day, and I may have some moderate hearing damage. But yeah, we have to do something about the tyrannical government first, because there's nothing we can do to solve any of the other problems we have in this country until that happens. Like Joe Biden went on national television and said, either get the vaccine or wear a mask until you do. I thought it was my body, my choice. Or is that not how that works? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and advocate against getting the vaccine. I'm not going to tell you to not get the vaccine. All I'm saying is I'm not getting the vaccine, and I don't think the federal government has the authority to mandate to me that I have to get the vaccine in order to exist in society. Therein lies my problem. Me personally, with the information that I know about the vaccine and so on and so forth, I do not believe that I would benefit from getting the vaccine. The point of getting a vaccine is to reduce your risk, not increase it. And in my particular situation, with the age group that I'm in and the health condition that I am in, I'm at an incredibly low risk of mortality from COVID-19, but yet I'm a much higher risk of mortality from getting the COVID-19 vaccine. As a matter of fact, I have yet to be tested to be absolutely sure, but I am pretty sure in February of 2020, COVID-19 had already gone through my household. Okay? So with that being said, there's multiple studies showing that if you get the COVID vaccine on top of the fact that you've already had COVID and recovered it, you actually have a higher risk of having adverse reactions to the vaccine. Now, if you are an elderly person with multiple possible comorbidities, if you catch COVID-19 and you feel that you need to go take the vaccine, then by all means, you go right ahead and take the vaccine. That's your choice. I'm saying that you have the choice to do that, and if you feel like that you're making an educated decision and you can accept those risks, then by all means, you go right ahead and do so. I'm telling you that with what I know and what I know about myself, I do not accept those risks, and thus I am not going to take the vaccine, and no one has the authority to make me. That's where I stand. But yet you've got states like New York that's wanting to put out, I think they called it the Excelsior Pass, is what they called it, which is essentially a vaccine passport that allows you to participate in society once you've had your vaccine. But you can't participate until you have. The mask thing, essentially, in the United States has become exactly like the marijuana prohibition in the 60s. There's absolutely nothing wrong with marijuana. Marijuana is not a gateway drug. As a matter of fact, it's been shown on multiple studies that it actually helps people who are addicted to opiates get off of the opiates. It's a wonderful treatment for PTSD. It's a wonderful treatment for chronic pain. It's a wonderful treatment for seizures and such like that. It's a wonderful treatment for cancer. And yet it's still not legal in a lot of states in the United States. It's still not federally legal. Some states said, screw the federal government, we're making it legal. All right. But in a lot of states, it's still illegal, like the state that I live in. And the reason for that, the only reason why marijuana was ever illegal was because they wanted a way to attack the anti-establishment hippies in the 60s. So they installed a prohibition on marijuana, perpetuated by a lie from big pharmaceutical companies, so that they would have a reason to arrest, because they can't arrest you for protesting. But now if they have a prohibition on marijuana and they make marijuana illegal, they can arrest you for being in possession of marijuana. A lot of hippies tended to partake in the green. So, that being said, that gave them the establishment the ammunition that they needed in order to go after the anti-establishment hippies in the 60s. And that's what the mask mandates are today. It gives them the opportunity to separate out and go after those who are anti-government establishment. Because why? Because they're self-serving and they're fucking us. Okay? I read the omnibus bill back in January and February. I actually sat down and read all 5,600 pages of mind-numbing legislature that was the omnibus bill. And let me tell you, there is a large chunk of our dollars that we pay in taxes that isn't even staying here. You know why we can't afford single-payer health care in the United States? Because we're paying for it in every other freaking country of the world. Not only are we paying for that, but we pay for 26% of the budget for the United Nations. We're sending all of our money to the United Nations. We're sending it to other countries, and so we're not spending it here. That's why we can't afford stuff like single-payer health care. That's why we can't afford stuff like social programs that actually work. That's why Social Security is running out of money. Because none of our money stays here. None of our money stays here in the United States. It's all gone. The only money that stays here in the United States is the money that they allocate for the military budgets, which is like 45% of the money we spend. The rest of it goes overseas, to other countries, to places like Pakistan for gender studies. Crap like that. We're financing the operations of the other governments around the globe. That's why ours doesn't have the money to operate properly. So we dive in, we borrow a shit ton of money from China because we can't afford to operate our own country because we're sending all of our money somewhere else. It's insane. All of this information is out there. It's readily available. I can find every bit of this on a simple Google search. Just a simple Google search on my cell phone right here that I'm broadcasting on TikTok with. Or on my laptop right here that I'm broadcasting on Spreaker.com. Either one of those. I can do a simple Google search and I can find all of this information. I can easily download a PDF of the omnibus bill. Actually, the omnibus bill was downloadable as public information off of Congress.gov. Every bill is. Sit down. Read it. Inform yourself. Be educated. I can't remember who necessarily said it. It was either Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson, but both of them had quite a few good quotes. But one of them actually said that the cost of liberty is vigilance. And we have become complacent in this country. We have become... intellectually speaking, we have become fat and slow and stupid. And we just go along with it day by day. With no concern at all whatsoever, unless it directly affects us in some way, shape, or form. Which gives the government free rein to just do whatever they want. As long as it doesn't affect a big enough group of people in the United States, then nobody's going to say a word. It's that, and you know, there's such a large number of things, you know, like the fact that we have this ideal here in the United States that we get to go around the globe and basically beat our Constitution down the throat of other countries. They don't operate in a way that we like, so we're going to go over there and kill their people and their leaders and put in leaders that do things the way we want them to. And we wonder why the rest of the globe hates us. We're bullies. And we've been bullies for so long that a lot of the American people here in the United States, that either one, doesn't know what the Constitution says, or two, doesn't realize that the Constitution ends at our borders. That's the point of a border. It says this line right here in the ground. I draw this line right here in the ground. You don't have any authority on my side of that line. Plain and simple. We have no authority over Mexico. They are a sovereign nation. We have no authority over Canada. They are a sovereign nation. Now, they are our neighbors. I mean, think about it this way. Do you get to go next door over to your neighbor's house and tell your neighbor, hey, you don't get to plant fucking tulips in your flower bed next to your steps. I don't like tulips, so you're not planting them over there. Do you have any kind of authority to tell your neighbor that? Because we sure as hell that's what people in this country think we do to other we should be able to do to other countries. We have no right to do that. Our Constitution doesn't affect anybody but American citizens within our own borders. Beyond that, it's just another piece of paper. It's their responsibility to come up with their own constitution. For example, Russia doesn't even have a Second Amendment. They let their people have firearms, but they're so restrictive, it's insane. And they still have mass shootings. Actually, they just had one. So, yeah. Be aware. Masks and this stuff with COVID-19, it's not about public safety. It's about control. Because we're talking about a disease that worldwide, that means including underdeveloped countries, has a mortality rate of 1.7%. And let me tell you, with those kind of numbers, with the type of numbers that we have from COVID, the deaths from COVID-19, you are more likely to win the lottery. You're more likely to win the Powerball or the Mega Millions here in the United States than you are to die from COVID-19. But by God, if you talk to Joe Biden, he's going to tell you that if you go outside your house without a mask or without the vaccine, you're going to die. And people just eat it up. That's what they preach on CNN, the Kool-Aid News Network, MSNBC, all of that. And when you've got such a strong presence on one side, you generate a vacuum on the other side, and that's where Fox News comes in. So if you want to listen to the media, if you want to listen to mainstream media, then you need to listen to both CNN and Fox News, because the truth is probably actually somewhere in the middle. To be quite honest with you. And like I said, we had that rally today. It was great. We had somebody on a motorcycle. Somebody got mad at the person that was on the motorcycle just because they were in the rally and threw a soda pop at him, damn near knocked him off their bike. Tried to get him killed. Just because they didn't agree with him. Newsflash, our rights are not contingent upon agreement. It's called freedom of speech. We have the right to peacefully assemble to air our grievances with our government. As long as it stays peaceful, we have every right to do it. And our rights are, like I said, are not contingent upon agreement. Do I agree with the message that BLM gets out there and rallies about? No, not at all. Because I'm educated enough to know the difference. I don't agree with them. But I'll tell you right now, I'll go to the grave defending their right to do it. And that's the difference. That's what a true patriot does. No, I don't agree with you, but I'll defend your rights. Like maybe Newsmax would work, Craig. It started off with Fox News. Fox News is like the really, really, really like alt-right side. And CNN is really the far left side. So I feel like Newsmax and OANN actually kind of stay in the middle. If you discount all of the stuff they talk about for Donald Trump, I think they're in the middle. Oh yeah, most of your the Washington Post is a propaganda machine. CNN's a propaganda machine. MSNBC, but see that's the thing. The propaganda still has to be based on some sort of truth. There still has to be some truth to it to generate the story. Okay, so if you listen to the propaganda that comes from Fox News and you listen to the propaganda that comes from CNN and you kind of merge the two of them together, the stuff that overlaps is probably the truth. That's what I've come to realize with my research and looking things up and so on and so forth. But yes, we had a great day. Our rally was a ton of fun. It was fantastic meeting people from across the state. It was awesome to be with like-minded individuals as far as our governmental views and how our country is being run. It was nice. We felt unified. I guess that's the best word I could say, because we had some people there that were transgender. We had some people who were LGBTQ, but nobody talked about those things. Those were secondary issues to getting rid of the tyranny that we have in our government. Because until we get rid of that tyranny, we can't fix any of these other issues. You know, I had one guy that was there at the rally. He's an Army veteran. He's a really chill dude. And he's like, man, I just want to be left alone. I just want to live my life. I just want to have my house, and I have my cars, and go to work, and pay my bills, and enjoy my family, and just if I want guns, I can go buy guns. I mean, I guess the best way I could put you know, kind of the whole viewpoint is that I think that married couple across the street should be able to defend their marijuana plants with machine guns. I mean, that's kind of what it boils down to. I mean, just leave people alone. Let them live their lives. Let them do their thing. It's nuts that nobody can unify behind that ideal. Everybody is so concerned with their own particular, like, personal bias, their confirmation bias movement of some sorts, that they just can't go, you know what, I'm going to set this bullshit aside for like a few minutes. Because these guys, I'm so busy worried about whether or not they agree with me on this right here that we can't get anything done. Because the people that we're expecting to do something about this thing that we're holding on to, they don't care to do so. It doesn't matter to them. They don't live that life. They've never lived that life. They have no idea what it's like to be a regular person. I mean, Mr. Socialist himself, Bernie Sanders, drives a fucking Ferrari. Okay? I'm not going to let somebody who drives a fucking Ferrari preach to me about greed and redistributing wealth. Okay? So, it's that's about as simple as I can put that. The signs and the information is right there. All you got to do is be willing to look. And we're not taking it anymore. We're just not doing it. So, I don't know. Hopefully this will gain some traction. I'm really going to do everything that I can in order to make sure that it gains some traction. I'll be out here spreading the word. So, stay tuned to my channel right here. All right, keep an eye on the podcast up here in the link in my bio. All right, as new information comes out about what we got going on for Freedom515, do not think for 1 second I will not throw a video up here on TikTok. I will put a video out. My show, I'm doing it almost every day now, my podcast. So as new information comes in, I will definitely disseminate that information out to you guys via the podcast or via TikTok. One of the other best ways that you could do is go to freedom515.com, go to the website, sign up for email notifications there on the website. You can also you can sign up there and become a member of the webpage. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can jump in with your state group and get information as far as other social media platforms that you can connect with your state groups on, so that you can get into a group and so you can volunteer and participate. So, and they'll definitely be able to help you with additional information going forward on that too. But like I said, overall, as the movement as a whole, I will definitely do my part to keep you guys informed. As soon as I get the information, I will spread the word to you guys. So, on that note, guys, that's going to do it for our Saturday night show. I know I'm cutting it a little bit short this time, but Mina and I are tired, and we have a long day ahead of us again tomorrow, about 4 hours riding in the vehicle again. So, we're going to sit down, and we're going to relax and kind of chill and get ready to go to bed here. So, as always, same bat time, same bat channel on Monday. We will see you later. Thanks for listening tonight, and remember, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Benjamin Franklin. You can reach me at www.facebook.com/centerpiece. You can also email me at centerpieceshow@gmail.com, or you can shoot me a tweet at centerpieceshow on Twitter. Thanks again for listening.